Rain poured heavily over the human settlement. Small streams ran along the cracked streets, and puddles reflected the dim glow of scattered lights. Inside a modest cabin, Alex sat by a worn wooden table, rubbing his tired hands together. The day had been long and exhausting. He had spent hours repairing broken machinery and scavenging supplies. Every bone in his body ached, and the cold seemed to seep through his clothes like it wanted to take him over completely. He was about to stand and pour himself a cup of hot water when a knock echoed through the cabin. It was soft, almost hesitant. Alex froze, listening carefully. No one ever visited him here. No neighbors, no friends. He had been alone for years, surviving in silence. Another knock followed, a little firmer this time. Cautiously, he approached the door, his heart beating faster than he expected. Slowly, he opened it. Standing there was a sight he could never have imagined. A tall alien woman, her skin shimmering silver blue even in the weak light, stood on the wet porch. She looked exhausted, her shoulders sagging under the weight of two small children she carried in her arms. Her hair was a soft shade of violet, wet from the rain and clinging to her face. Her eyes, large and glimmering, were full of fear, hope, and something Alex could only describe as raw desperation. He blinked, unsure if he should step back or pull her inside. Her gaze locked on his, unafraid, and something in that look tugged at a part of him he had long forgotten existed. "Please," her voice was soft, almost a whisper, yet it carried an urgency that made Alex's chest tighten. "I have nowhere else to go. My children. They need a father. I will do anything, even warm your bed." The words hung in the air, strange and intimate, and Alex could feel his mind racing. He had heard stories about alien refugees arriving in human settlements, desperate and lost, but he had never expected to see one at his door, and certainly never with two small children in her arms, looking at him with fragile trust. The twins peeked from behind her, wide-eyed and shivering. One of them, a tiny boy, clutched her arm tightly, while the other, a little girl, rested her head against her mother's shoulder, trembling in the cold. Alex's heart skipped a beat. They were so small, so vulnerable, and yet here they were, depending entirely on a stranger for their safety. I don't understand," Alex said slowly, his voice rough from disuse. "Why are you here? Why come to me?" Liara, he learned her name was Liara, took a shaky breath, her eyes glimmering with unshed tears. "I have no home. My husband, he is gone. They took him from me in a raid on our world. My children, they are all I have left. I have traveled light years to find safety. I have nowhere else to turn." Alex's mind struggled to process everything. Her words painted a picture of loss, fear, and courage. She had survived horrors beyond his imagination and still stood here, asking for help. There was something profoundly human in her eyes, in the way she looked at her children, the way she stood at his door with complete vulnerability, yet undeniable strength. The rain continued to fall, and a chill filled the cabin behind him. Without thinking, Alex stepped aside. "Come in, quickly," he said, his voice quieter than he expected, almost gentle. Liara nodded, relief washing over her features. She carried the twins inside carefully, setting them down near the fire. The children huddled together, shivering but safe, while their mother looked at Alex with gratitude and a hint of something deeper, hope. Alex closed the door behind them and felt a strange warmth spread through him. For the first time in years, his cabin, usually quiet and empty, was filled with life. And though he didn't yet understand it, he knew everything was about to change. Outside, the rain continued to fall, but inside, a fragile bond was beginning, a bond that might grow into trust, protection, and maybe even something he hadn't allowed himself to hope for in a long time. Family. The cabin smelled of wet clothes and fire smoke. Alex busied himself with drying the twins' small jackets, trying not to stare too much at Liara. She sat on the floor near the fire, her knees pulled close to her chest, watching her children carefully. The twins were finally starting to relax, their tiny hands reaching for the warmth of the flames. Liara's voice was soft, hesitant at first, as she spoke. "I know this is strange, asking a stranger for help, but I have no other choice. My children. They need someone to protect them. Someone strong. Someone who can teach them, guide them. Someone like you, Alex froze. The words were unexpected, almost too personal. He wasn't a teacher, he wasn't a father. He was a man who had survived on his own, who trusted no one. Yet, hearing her speak, he felt a strange pull in his chest. The vulnerability in her voice, the trembling hope in her eyes. It was impossible to ignore. I don't know if I can help, he admitted quietly. I've never taken care of anyone but myself. Liara shook her head, her hair falling over her face in wet strands. I don't care about that. I only know that my children are alive because I kept moving. They are alive because I didn't give up. But I cannot do everything alone. They need a father figure, someone to be steady, someone to love them in a way I cannot. The children, sensing the tension in the room, crept closer to their mother. The little boy tugged at her sleeve and she smiled faintly, brushing his wet hair from his forehead. It's okay, my loves. You're safe now, she whispered. Alex's throat tightened. He wasn't used to this. No one had ever called him safe, let alone needed him. His life had been about survival, about logic and efficiency. Emotions had always been a luxury he couldn't afford. But looking at Liara and her children, he felt something new, something he had buried deep inside himself for years. Liara's eyes softened as she looked at him. Please, just a place to sleep. Just a chance to show them kindness. I don't ask for much. I only ask for a little humanity. Alex swallowed hard. He could see the honesty in her gaze, the truth in her voice. He could see the nights she had spent hiding from danger, the endless travel through space, the sacrifices she had made to protect her children. And he could see the quiet courage that still burned inside her despite everything she had lost. I can give you food, a place to stay tonight, he said slowly. But about being a father, I'm not sure I can do that. Liara's lips curved into a small, sad smile. I don't need you to be perfect. I don't need you to know everything. I only need you to try. I only need you to care. There was a pause. The only sound the crackling of the fire and the rain tapping against the roof. Alex looked at the children huddled together, shivering slightly despite the warmth. He could see the fear in their eyes, the longing for safety, for someone to hold them, to tell them it was okay. Finally, he nodded. Okay, come inside. You and the children can stay. Tonight, at least? Liara's eyes shone with gratitude, and she gently guided the twins closer to the fire. Thank you, she whispered. You have no idea what this means to us. As Alex closed the door behind them, he felt a strange mixture of fear and hope. His life had been simple, predictable, solitary. Now, with two small children and a determined alien woman depending on him, everything was changing. The cold outside seemed harsher, but the warmth inside, the warmth of trust, of hope, of fragile beginnings, was stronger than he had expected. He realized as he watched Liara and her children that tonight marked the first step toward something he had never allowed himself to imagine. A family, however unconventional, however uncertain, and a chance to do something bigger than survive, to care, to protect, to belong. The cabin felt warmer now, filled with the quiet rustle of wet clothes drying and the soft crackle of the fire. Alex moved around, trying to make space for Liara and her children. He found blankets and laid them near the hearth. The twins, still shivering slightly, hugged their mother tightly. Liara noticed Alex's awkward movements and smiled faintly. You don't have to do everything, she said softly. Her voice carried calmness, but there was still that note of worry, as if she had learned long ago not to trust easily. I just want you to be comfortable, Alex replied, scratching the back of his neck. This place isn't much, but it's dry. She nodded, adjusting the little blanket around her twins. It's more than enough. Thank you. For a while, silence settled in the cabin. The only sounds were the fire's soft crackle and the rain tapping gently against the roof. The twins' small bodies relaxed, the warmth of the fire creeping into their bones. They whispered to each other quietly, their fear slowly melting into curiosity. Then Liara spoke again, her voice low, hesitant, almost shy. Alex, I know it's strange to say this, but I can help keep you warm too, at night when you sleep. I won't be a burden. I only want to help, to repay the kindness you've given us." Alex stopped what he was doing and looked at her, a mixture of surprise and confusion on his face. "I don't need that. I've slept alone for years." "I'm fine." Her eyes softened, glimmering with something he didn't expect: hope. "It's not just for you," she said. "It's for them. For my children. They need warmth, comfort, a family, and you could be a part of that, even if it's just a little." He hesitated, words failing him. He had spent years surviving alone, relying on no one. Emotions were dangerous, unnecessary. But looking at her bravery, at her vulnerability, he felt something stirring inside, a spark he thought he had buried long ago. Protectiveness, care, a strange pull in his chest. The twins stirred, noticing the tension. The little boy crawled toward Alex, his small hand reaching for his warmth. Alex froze for a moment, then let the boy climb onto his lap. The tiny weight, the trust, felt heavier than any weapon or shield he had ever carried. He could feel the child's fear, his need for safety, and it made his heart ache. Liara watched quietly, her hand brushing the child's hair. "They trust you," she said softly. "I trust you too." Alex swallowed hard. He wasn't used to trust. He wasn't used to this kind of closeness. But as the firelight danced across her face, he realized something. Protecting these lives, being near them, giving them safety. It felt right. For the first time in years, he didn't just feel warmth from the fire. He felt warmth in his chest, a connection that went beyond reason or logic. The night grew quieter. The twins curled against their mother, their breathing slowing as sleep took over. Alex sat beside them, watching, his thoughts heavy but strange with hope. Liara leaned slightly toward him, the faintest touch of her hand on his arm. It was brief, almost accidental, but it carried meaning he couldn't ignore. I don't know what tomorrow will bring," he said quietly, almost to himself. Liara smiled, gentle and tired. "It doesn't matter. Tonight, we are safe. Tonight, we have each other." For the first time in a long while, Alex believed her. The storm outside continued, but the fire inside burned brighter. The small cabin, once empty and cold, was alive with trust, hope, and the beginnings of something stronger than survival. Something like family. And as he watched Liara and her children, Alex realized he was no longer alone. For the first time in years, he felt a sense of purpose beyond himself. He didn't yet know the future, didn't know if he could truly be the father they needed, but for tonight, he would stay. He would protect them. And that was enough. Morning came slowly, the rain easing into a soft drizzle. Sunlight struggled through the clouds, casting a pale glow over the cabin. Alex awoke to small voices and giggles. He turned to see the twins playing quietly on the floor, their laughter delicate and pure. Liara was beside them, her face soft and peaceful for the first time since he had met her. Alex watched silently, a strange warmth spreading through him. The children's trust in him, even after just one night, was humbling. He realized that survival wasn't enough anymore. They needed more than food and shelter. They needed guidance, safety, and love. Liara noticed his gaze. "They're getting used to you," she said quietly, a smile touching her lips. "They feel safe here because of you." He shook his head, half embarrassed. "I don't know if I'm good at this, being around children. I've never done it before." Her smile didn't fade. "It's okay. You don't need to know everything. You just need to care. That's enough for them. That's enough for me." They spent the day together in a rhythm that felt surprisingly natural. Alex taught the twins to identify simple tools and materials around the cabin, showing them how to repair a leaky pipe and fix a broken lantern. The children were eager learners, their small hands fumbling and clumsily copying his movements. Liara helped, guiding them gently, her voice calm but firm. As the hours passed, Alex noticed subtle changes. The twins laughed more freely, their shyness fading. They asked questions about his life, about Earth, about things he had never thought to share with anyone. And slowly, he found himself answering, telling stories of his childhood, of small adventures and lessons learned. Liara watched him from the corner of her eye, sensing the shift in him. He was opening up, letting them in. It was tentative, fragile, but real. She felt a flicker of hope, that maybe this human could be more than a protector, that maybe he could truly become a part of their lives. That evening, Alex gathered firewood while Liara prepared a simple meal. The twins followed him, their small feet splashing in puddles outside. He laughed quietly when one of them slipped, catching him just in time. The sound was light, unexpected, but it filled him with a strange joy he hadn't felt in years. Later, they sat together by the fire, sharing the meal. The twins chattered happily, asking questions about the stars and the planets beyond. Liara listened quietly, occasionally answering their curious questions, but mostly watching Alex interact with them. He was patient, gentle, and careful, qualities she hadn't expected from a human survivor who lived alone. After the meal, the twins climbed onto Alex's lap, leaning into him as he told a story about his childhood adventures. Liara sat beside him, her hand resting lightly on his arm, a silent gesture of trust. He noticed her glance and felt a strange, unfamiliar warmth in his chest. For the first time, Alex allowed himself to feel that maybe he belonged somewhere beyond solitude. He realized that protecting them wasn't just a duty, it was a privilege. Their laughter, their trust, their small acts of love, they were slowly weaving him into their lives. And in turn, they were becoming part of his life, part of his heart. The night fell, and the cabin grew quiet. The twins slept soundly, Liara beside them, and Alex sat by the fire thinking. He understood that life would not always be easy, that challenges lay ahead, and that trust could be fragile. But for now, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Hope that he could be their anchor, their father figure, their family. And as he watched Liara gently tuck the children into their blankets, he made a silent promise to himself. He would protect them, care for them, and do everything he could to give them the life they deserved. Because for the first time in years, he realized that survival alone was not enough. They needed more, and he was ready to give it. The next few days had been peaceful. Rain had stopped, and the sun shone weakly through the clouds. Alex, Liara, and the twins had settled into a fragile routine. But that fragile peace was about to shatter. It started with a distant hum in the sky. Alex noticed it first, pausing while fixing the small generator outside. The sound was low, mechanical, familiar to him but alarming. He frowned, scanning the horizon. Then he saw them, ships approaching fast, black and angular, cutting through the clouds with precision. His heart sank. Liara noticed too. Her eyes widened, fear flickering across her features. "Alex, they've found me," she whispered, clutching the twins to her chest. Her voice trembled, but beneath it was a steel resolve. "They are the ones who destroyed my world. They want the children." Alex felt anger rising, fierce and protective. "Not here. Not while I'm alive. They won't touch them." His voice was firm, a warning to both the approaching ships and to himself, a promise that he would not fail. The ships landed near the settlement, mechanical doors opening, and heavily armed raiders emerged. They were a cruel sight, tall, masked, and exuding menace. Liara held her children tighter, whispering reassurances she didn't feel, but she had to show strength. Alex quickly assessed the situation. He had no formal weapons, but he had traps, knowledge of the terrain, and a determination that burned brighter than any fear. He motioned for Liara and the children to follow him inside, barricading the door with heavy furniture. "They can't get through here easily," he said, trying to sound calm. But his mind raced. The raiders were relentless, trained to take what they wanted, and now his little family was the target. The twins clung to Liara, shivering, and she whispered softly, "It's okay, my loves. I'm here. We are safe." Her voice cracked slightly, but her eyes searched Alex's for reassurance. He gave her a firm nod. They were safe, as long as he could hold them. Hours passed. The raiders banged on the door, demanding she come out. "Liara, you and your children belong to us," one shouted. Their voices were harsh, mechanical, inhuman. But Alex stood tall, his hands gripping a makeshift spear. "They're not going anywhere," he growled. Go back or you'll regret it. Liara watched him, fear mixed with awe. She had fled countless battles, lost her husband to the very same kind of merciless aggression, yet here was a human, someone she barely knew, standing unflinching in the face of danger for her and her children. She felt a surge of something she hadn't dared feel for a long time, hope. The raiders tried to break in, but Alex had anticipated their approach. He had rigged traps around the cabin, hidden wires that would trip, weighted logs ready to swing. The first raider fell heavily into one of the traps, giving Alex a moment to push furniture and shield Liara and the children. He fought with all his strength, with every muscle and instinct. Seat he had honed over years of surviving alone. Liara whispered to the twins, "Stay behind me. He's protecting us. Everything will be okay." The twins clutched her, trusting completely, their small hands squeezing hers. Alex's mind was clear, his heart steady. Fear had no place here, only determination. He would not let them take this family. Not tonight. Not ever. And as he prepared for the next wave of raiders, he realized something undeniable. He was no longer just surviving for himself. He was fighting for love, for trust, for a family that depended entirely on him, and he would not fail them. The night was dark and cold, broken only by the flickering firelight inside the cabin and the occasional flash from outside. The raiders were relentless. They banged on the barricaded door, shouting threats, their blasters glowing faintly in the rain. Alex's heart pounded, but his mind was sharp and focused. Every move, every trap, every decision mattered. He could not fail. Liara held the twins close, whispering reassurances. "It's okay. It's okay. He will protect us," she murmured. Her voice trembled, but her presence gave the children courage. The twins clung to her, their eyes wide, trusting completely in Alex. Alex crouched near the door, ready to act. He had set traps earlier, hidden wires and weighted logs that would trip or knock down anyone trying to force their way in. The first raider stumbled over one of the wires, hitting the ground hard. The next was caught by a swinging log, leaving a loud crash that echoed through the cabin. Alex took a deep breath, staying calm, moving like he had done countless times in survival drills. The raiders regrouped, more cautious now, but their numbers pressed him. One came from the side, breaking a window. Shards of glass flew, but Alex pushed Liara and the twins back, shielding them. He grabbed a sturdy metal rod and met the raider head-on. The clash was fierce, but brief. His years of survival and quick reflexes gave him the edge. Liara gasped, clutching the twins. "Alex, be careful!" she cried, fear and admiration mixing in her voice. "I have to protect you," he shouted back. "All of you." His determination surged, stronger than fear, stronger than pain. He fought with precision, using every trap, every move he had planned. The raiders underestimated him, thinking a human alone could not defend against trained warriors. They were wrong. Hours seemed to pass in a blur of chaos. Blaster fire, crashing wood, and shouted commands filled the air. But slowly Alex gained the upper hand. His traps worked perfectly, the raiders fell one by one, and his knowledge of the cabin's layout gave him an advantage. Liara guided the twins quietly, keeping them safe and ready to move if needed. Finally, the last raider tried to break through the main door. Alex met him with a force and resolve he didn't know he possessed. With a well-timed strike and a clever trap, the raider was incapacitated. Silence fell, broken only by the rain outside and the heavy breathing inside. Alex sank to his knees, exhausted, his body shaking from adrenaline. Liara rushed to him, her eyes filled with tears of relief and awe. You saved us," she whispered, holding the twins tightly. "You really are their father." The twins scrambled forward, tiny hands wrapping around his arms and legs. Their trust, their relief, their small smiles. It hit Alex harder than any weapon ever could. He hugged them close, feeling their warmth seep into his bones, feeling a connection he had never known. Liara knelt beside him, brushing wet hair from his forehead. "I don't know how to thank you," she said softly. "You gave us life when it felt lost. You gave them hope." Alex looked at her, exhausted but unbroken. "I didn't do it for thanks. I did it because I had to, because I couldn't let them suffer." Because I care." His voice faltered slightly, but the truth was undeniable. The rain eased, leaving a calm, quiet night. The threat was gone, and for the first time, the small cabin felt truly safe. Alex sat with Liara and the twins, holding them close, feeling the gravity of what had just happened. He had fought not just for survival, but for something far greater: love, trust, and family. And in that moment, he understood something he had never admitted to himself. These lives, fragile and precious, had given him purpose. They had made him more than a survivor. They had made him a protector, a father, a part of something bigger than himself. The morning after the attack was calm. Sunlight broke through the clouds, reflecting off the wet ground and filling the cabin with soft light. The rain had stopped, leaving the world washed clean, as if nature itself wanted to give them a fresh start. Alex sat by the fire, quietly watching the twins play. Their laughter was light and carefree, a sound that made his chest ache in a way he hadn't expected. Liara moved around the cabin, preparing a simple breakfast, her movements calm but precise. She glanced at Alex, a small smile on her lips. "They've grown comfortable here," she said softly. "Because of you." Alex shook his head, feeling a little embarrassed. I don't know what I'm doing half the time," he admitted. "I've never been around kids, never taken care of anyone but myself." Liara knelt beside him, placing her hand over his. "It doesn't matter. You're learning and you care. That's all they need. That's all I need. We all need that." Her eyes glimmered with a quiet intensity that made him feel seen, understood, and accepted. The twins ran up to him, tugging at his arms and smiling. "Tell us a story," the little boy shouted. "Yes, about the stars," the girl added. Alex laughed quietly, a deep sound that surprised even him. For the first time, he realized he had been missing something vital: connection, joy, and the feeling of being needed. He began telling a story, simple and playful, about his childhood adventures and imaginary travels across planets. The twins listened, wide-eyed and rapt, hanging on to every word. Liara watched silently, leaning against his shoulder occasionally, letting herself relax in the rare security of the moment. After the story, they settled by the fire. The twins curled up between them, and Alex felt a profound sense of belonging. He had fought to keep them safe, faced dangers he never imagined, and now, sitting there, he understood the true meaning of family. It wasn't bloodlines or obligation. It was trust, protection, and love. Liara's voice broke his thoughts. "Alex, I don't know how to say this, but you've become more than I hoped for, more than I could have imagined. You're part of our family. You are our anchor." Alex felt a lump in his throat. He swallowed hard, looking at her and then at the twins, their small hands entwined with his. I never thought I could be this. A father figure, someone who matters this much. But with you, with all of you, I want to be, I will be, I promise." Liara's eyes filled with tears, and she gently rested her forehead against his. "We are yours as much as you are ours," she whispered. "We survived the worst, and now we have each other. That is everything." The twins giggled, interrupting their moment, and Alex laughed softly, feeling a joy that had been foreign to him for years. He hugged them close, feeling their warmth, their trust, their love seep into him. For the first time in his life, he realized that survival alone was not enough. Life was meant to be shared, protected, and cherished. Outside, the world was quiet, peaceful. The rain had left the soil fertile, the air clean, and the sky clear. Inside, the small cabin was filled with life, warmth, and laughter. Alex, Liara, and the twins had survived loss, danger, and fear. They had faced uncertainty and emerged stronger, bound together not by chance but by choice. Alex held them close, watching the sunlight dance across their faces. He knew there would be challenges ahead, but for the first time, he felt ready. He had a family now, and he would protect them with every fiber of his being. Liara whispered softly, "Thank you, Alex, for giving us hope, for giving us a home." He smiled, feeling a peace he hadn't known in years. "No, thank you. For trusting me, for letting me be part of your lives. We're together now, and nothing will change that. And as the day began, with laughter echoing through the cabin and sunlight spilling into their lives, Alex finally understood something profound. Family, love, and hope were worth fighting for, and he would never let them go. For the first time in a long time, he felt truly alive.